Hello, guys, and welcome to Odds on Serie A Match Day 19. Danny, after an exciting Napoli Juventus, Napoli is really on track to win the Scudetto. How are you doing, Daniele Fisichella?
All well, so the big game delivered in favor of Napoli, much better side. They took the chances really well. Juventus didn't have the plan B. Well, they didn't seem even to have the plan A, but now they are 10 points behind. Milan 9 points behind. And Napoli, if they win this one, they can turn at the Girone d'Andata 50 points. How amazing is that?
Indeed, only 2 draws, 1 defeat for Napoli out of Coppa Italia. We will talk about it later. Guys, remember to leave your comments, leave your tips in this video, and of course, press the like and subscribe. Danny, let's go on with the show.
Of course.
It's a bit strange this match day, starting on Saturday, finishing on Tuesday with Lazio Milan. But the first game, as I said, is on Saturday. We have Verona Lecce for the relegation battle. We know that the bottom three looks very bad for all the teams, including Verona. This is a must win for the team in the north. They lost against Inter, as you said, Danny, as you tipped. Actually, it was a close victory for Inter, whereas for Lecce, also, you were spot on. They were going to create difficulties against Milan. They got a point. Perhaps even they could have won that game. No defeats in the last 6 games for Lecce. That's why I'm a bit surprised to see these odds, to see Verona favorite against Lecce.
Yeah, I'm a bit surprised too. And if you look at the odds for the double chance for Lecce, they are very, very good. Yeah, it's been inexplicable, apart from the fact that Verona has shown some improvements in the last few games. At San Siro against Inter, they held their own. They were solid. They were compact. By the way, Onana, the Inter keeper, didn't have to make a single save. So, they were always going to be on the losing side, if you like, but they only conceded 2 goals in the last 3 games in the new year. They are still the worst on defense, by the way. 17 goals conceded. They go 14 points less compared to last season, and that's explained by the fact that they've sold the 3 main strikers in the summer and they haven't replaced them. They haven't got enough goals in them. But maybe there are some signs of improvements. They need to kick on if they want to get saved. Lecce, they look very good. They look very comfortable. Maybe they will have regrets for not having won that game against Milan. But, a point against the champions is good. And they've shown all the good qualities. Quick counter-attack. They are aggressive. They can be solid at the back. In the first half, they should have at least 1 goal more, I will say. They look comfortable. Let's not forget, last season, Salernitana was saved with 31 points. And Lecce got 20, if I'm not wrong. So that should be absolutely fine for them. 9 points in the 9 away games so far. So it's a good tally for them. The last away games, they played at Spezia. They should have won. I'm going to go for an Asian handicap 0 for Lecce in the first half, 2.24, which I think is good. They often score the first goal, Lecce, lately. So if they draw the first half, not a problem because you get your money back. But if they do win the first half at Verona, which at home have struggled, you get 2.24.
Most of the people here, Danny, of course, they are going for Lecce with these good odds, either for Asian handicap 0 or for the double chance. We have Jesper also going for both teams to score. Really good odds to back the team from Puglia in this Verona Lecce next game. This is a derby, Salernitana Napoli. Salerno is very close from Napoli. Huge surprise seeing Napoli out of Coppa Italia in the penalty shootout against Cremonese. But if we are talking about Serie A, Danny, that 5-1 against Juve, I think, was a dream for Napoli supporters. We have to enhance again the role of Kvaratskhelia. What a player, what a show the Georgian is putting in Serie A. And they are visiting Salerno, Danny, with a lot of problems. Salernitana lately, you were mentioning that Memo Ochoa was the best player in the last games. Well, they got 8 against Atalanta.
Salernitana, who sacked the manager, Davide Nicola, who got them saved last season, who did a miracle. And this is a very strange sacking. Okay, they conceded 8 against Atalanta, against Milan, against Torino. Ochoa basically saved them. but they got 10 more points compared to last season. And by the way, only Napoli has done so well, +8 compared to last season. These are the two most improved teams compared to last season. Yet Nicola has been sacked, and it's very, very strange because they got 19 points. Last season at this stage, Venezia, who got relegated, got 17 points. So, they have to be careful, but it's very weird why the reason they changed it. Maybe it's because they are shipping too many goals. So far, they conceded 35. Of course, conceding 8 against Atalanta didn't help the mathematics there. Maybe they are playing two attacking players. They got a lot of talent up front, the likes of Dia, Villegna, Piatek, obviously Candreva, now Nicolussi Caviglia. Maybe they let themselves a little bit too exposed, especially when they have a slow back line led by Fazio, who had a horror show against the quickness, the speed, the pace of Højlund and Lookman. And now they receive Napoli. This game, by the way, last season finished 1-0 for Napoli, so it was tight. Okay, let's not take into consideration Napoli defeat penalties against Cremonese because they made 10 changes. The worrying things perhaps for Spalletti is that when they put the starters on, Kvaratskhelia, Osimhen, etc., they went to extra time and they couldn't break Cremonese down, who were down to 10 men. But after winning against such the one they won against Juventus, I think the mental energy, they get a little bit drained and they could be a little bit of mental fatigue, although Napoli were absolutely comfortable against Juventus. So in a way, it's good to get that defeat out of your system in a Coppa Italia, which is the less important of the competition. When they are on course to win the league, they got the best attack. They got the best away attack. And the fact I liked a lot about Napoli is that they seem to have shrugged off the fear of being superior than the opponents. Sometimes they look last season like they were playing with a little bit of fear, like they couldn't believe they were that good or that better. This time they play with much more confidence, and they know what they are capable of. Last season, Inter had 43 points at this stage of the season. Napoli already have 47. Milan, who won the league last season, had 39 points. In the end, they won the league with 86. Napoli could easily finish above 90 points if they keep this pace, but even if they drop it at 10%. You didn't mention Kvaratskhelia, you didn't mention Osimhen, but I think the real work of Spalletti is having improved those players like Mario Rui, 10 assists, Lobotka, one of the best midfielders in Serie A, Elmas, 5 goals and 1 assist, scores also against Juventus. Those players that were a little bit like fringe players and has improved them a lot. Apart from the starts, of course, Osimhen, top goal scorer in Serie A. Napoli to score in both halves. I think they play a Salernitana side. We still don't know who the manager is going to be. I think they're going to be, even if you look at the handicap, -1 doesn't pay a lot. To score in both halves, 191. If they score early, again, this could be a 4-5 nil easy.
Napoli first goal in the first half for Bonjovo. I'm sure Napoli also will be furious after being out of Coppa Italia, but they have a historical chance of winning the Serie A, and they should get the points in Salerno. As you said, Danny, very surprising to see one of the best teams in 2022 sacking the manager Davide Nicola. And on Saturday, we have Fiorentina Torino, much more level this game, although Torino, they are having difficulties to win lately. It was a surprising defeat at home, the last one against Spezia, whereas for Fiorentina, Danny, they didn't have much chances in the Olimpico because they were down to 10 men very early, so they lost at home, though they are getting positive results lately.
Yeah, I think for Fiorentina, despite the 2-0 defeat, it was a decent game. Yes, the sending off of Dodo screwed them completely. But, even with 10 men, Italiano made attacking changes, brought in Barak in the second half. They still play with 2 up front, with Cabral as well. So they still try to attack and be positive. And I think in the end, Roma was very, very clinical. They score many less goals than last season. That's the problem. They scored 12 less goals compared to this stage of last season. That's why they got 8 points less in the table. It is a team that struggles to find the net, of course. Last season they had Vlahovic, who was really in form. But the game against Roma was weird because the first time they didn't score in the last 13 games. So I think things are improving. Fiorentina could push for a 7th spot, so to qualify for Europe next season. They need to find a better consistency in their results. Against Torino, who's another inconsistent team, they had a very good performance in Coppa Italia against Milan, very brave. They knocked them out against with 10 men, managed to win in extra time. And then against Spezia, they deserve to lose. Spezia had the best chances. It depends, they are very, very difficult to predict, especially when they travel. They got only 11 points away, so mid-table, really. This is a weird game, by the way, because in 10 days' time, they will meet again in the Coppa Italia quarterfinals at the Stadio Franchi, Fiorentina-Torino. So I wonder who's going to make more changes to the formation, who's going to cover the cards a little bit more, because obviously the Coppa Italia looks really, really appealing for both of them, now considering the Napoli have been knocked out, for example. Weirdly, for Torino, the next 3 games are all in Tuscany. You go Fiorentina, Empoli, which is next door to Firenze, and then Fiorentina again. So they better stay in Tuscany, really, perhaps for a longer time. It's very difficult to predict this one. I think both to score is where you can find the double, and that pays too.
Well, I wish I could stay also in Tuscany, Danny, for a while.
Yeah,
good Chianti, good bistecca, la Fiorentina. Enjoy the good landscapes in this region of Italy and watching Fiorentina Torino, for instance. And if this is a weird game, in your opinion, the next one is a crucial one because we have Sampdoria Udinese. We all know all the problems that Sampdoria are having during the season, still penultimate in the standings, but now they are facing Udinese, Danny, that they are unable to win a football game. They lost to Bologna at home, 10 winless games for Udinese. So I can imagine that all Sampdoria supporters think this is the game to win and keep the hope to stay alive in Serie A.
They have to win it after what happened in Empoli. It was a very simple game without many chances. Then they conceded from set piece again. A team that is struggling so much to let a chip goal in, and then they throw everything, throw the kitchen sink, very confused attacking. In the end, they did score in the 96th minute with Colley, with the keeper Audero up front, giving the key pass to initiate the action, but then it was disallowed for a foul in attack that maybe wasn't. So I think Sampdoria should have had a point at least at Empoli, but very, very chaotic, desperate, and is only match day 18, and they look so desperate, sometimes with a plan. I wonder what's happening to them. Of course, Stankovic is instilling the fighting spirit, but sometimes they seem to be really without a plan, and they play this one is a must-win game because Udinese, despite having 5 more points compared to last season, they are in a very negative streak, as you mentioned. Only in May 2018 had such a bad results. 2 defeats in a row for the second time since the beginning of 2022. Is it a lack of fitness? Is it a lack of creativity? Against Bologna without Arnautovic, without Barro, they still managed to ship 2 goals. Deulofeu is back for this one, so maybe the answer to the lack of creativity could be the return of the Spaniards. Away from home, Udinese so far, very, very difficult to predict. 3 wins, 3 draw, 3 loss, 12 goals scored, 12 goals conceded. So it's almost impossible to predict it, although the Sampdoria win, in terms of odds, it's very, very appealing. Again, I'm going to go for a both to score, 199. I don't think neither of these 2 teams have got great defenses at the moment. 199, both teams to score.
Crucial game for Sampdoria. Danny, next game is Monza Sassuolo. What a season Monza are doing. Crucial victory against Cremonese. Caprari scoring a brace. Only 1 defeat in the last 6, and it was against Lazio, so they are really informed. In the opposite side, we have Sassuolo, is the last team that is safe right now, and they've lost 8 out of the last 10 games, Danny.
And they look very sad, if you can allow the term. They look a little bit depressed. They are not that. They lost that kind of spark and that vigor that they used to have in previous seasons, even last season with Dionisi, but obviously more often with the Zerbi. They don't create much. They always tend to concede stupid goals. Yeah, they almost lost their soul. Sassuolo, for a team that, they only sold Scamacca as a big player in the summer, but they retain most of the key players, the like of Frattesi, Berardi, etc. And I think they should be worried, not only because they got 8 points less compared to last season, but also because last season, Venezia, who got relegated at this stage, had one more point than them, 17, and they went down. Exactly the same amount of goals scored than Sassuolo, 17, and they still went down. So the numbers suggest if they don't turn the corner quickly, they might gonna go down. They are third from bottom away from home, only score 5 goals away from home, second worst attack. Last season, they were scoring away from home all the time. And now they play a difficult side, Monza, who finally they continue to show their quality. If you look at the first goal, Churria's opener against Cremonese is a beautiful actions. No defeat in the last 4 for Monza. They score 13 goals at home, 3 more goals than Roma, for example, and they score in 8 out of 9 in all competition. It is a team that does tend to concede. They do play risky football. They tend to obviously build the possession from the back. Sometimes they shoot themselves in the foot, but they have a lot of quality midfield with the likes of Rovella, Pessina, of course, up front, Caprari, Petagna. These are all players that can guarantee you assists and goals. But for this one, I think Sassuolo will kind of invert the trend. I can't see them losing this one, and I like the Asian handicap plus 0.25 for Sassuolo, which pays 195.
Okay, a bit of a surprise if Sassuolo they are able to catch points in Monza. Jesper is going for a double chance for this game. Monza really favorites, as we can see, 2.4. And next game is Spezia Roma. Spezia with a crucial victory the past week. They are 9 points now above relegation. They are getting good results lately, 5 undefeated games. At home, they are drawing a lot. Dani, 4 out of the last 5 home games were draws. And we have Roma getting good results, I would say, beating Fiorentina, draw against Milan. But perhaps they are getting the points they didn't have before, but they are not playing that well, we have to say. And this is an important game for Roma. They are still close to the Champions League spots.
Yes, and we saw against Fiorentina glimpses of good football. The link-up Abraham and Dybala was good in the occasion of both 2 goals, and they depend a lot from these two. Abraham has to find this form again. 1 goal and 1 assist so far in the new year, and Dybala is so important. 3 goals so far in the last week, also in Coppa Italia against Genoa, 10 goals in total. So despite all the problems, despite the fact they never seen Wijnaldum because of injury, despite the issues they had with injury with Dybala before, Abraham being in bad form, Zaniolo being hit and miss, despite all of that, they are -4 on Milan. So they are very, very close to the Champions League spot, and they've got 3 more points compared to last season. Are they playing better? No, I don't think they are. But it's a team that, they got quality, they got talents, and they got a very experienced manager. And I think if they are there until the end in the mix, they will be really, really dangerous. By the way, against Fiorentina, Rui Patricio didn't have to make a single save. Spezia, they are living the best moment ever in the history in Serie A, best ever unbeaten streak, 5 games without defeat. Zola looks like a new player, 9 goal scorer, second only to Osimhen, 5+ points on last season. And I like what Gotti did. He makes them solid. He makes them a little bit more defensively minded, hard to beat, play with 3-5-2, less expansive football, but very effective. And he restored the confidence in the big player they got, which is Nzola, of course. We have seen in the last few years with Thiago Motta and Italiano Spezia side, they play better football. But I like this one, and I think this one I got more chances to staying up. Goal difference, by the way, is +1 at home. So they often score at home 6 draws. But despite all of that, I like the Asian handicap -0.75 for Roma, 210, because I think Roma are going to win this one. And if they win by 1 goal margin, you only win half a stake. Is much better this one than going for a Roma win, in my opinion.
All right, 3 points away from the top 4. Roma right now, Nils is telling us Enzola and Dybala shots on target as a prop bet,
Possibly,
as Cod Gaming is suggesting. Why not? Of course, there are many bookies also offering this kind of market, and Danny just analyzed the good moment of Enzola and Dybala together with Tammy Abraham. Well, Danny, on Sunday after Spezia Roma, we have Juventus Atalanta. Let's see the atmosphere we see in the Juventus Stadium after that 5-1 in Napoli. Every time Juve are facing good opposition this year, both in the Champions League and now against Napoli, they crumble. They are not getting the results, even if they were coming from 8 consecutive victories before that game in the Maradona. And facing right now Atalanta is not the best thing, Danny, because apart from scoring 8 against Atalanta, they are back to free flow scoring football. They are scoring much more goals than at the beginning of the season, and also they are in European spots, only 3 points away from Inter.
This is a dangerous game for Juventus, of course, which also will play midweek against Monza in Coppa Italia. Juventus against Napoli, they cracked under pressure, and the 8 wins and the 8 consecutive clean sheet made people believe that Juventus out of a sudden have become such a strong defensive unit. Well, they were better defensively for sure, but the truth is that they played against opposition who didn't take the chances, and they won 4 games 1-0, scoring late, the last one against Udinese and Cremonese. The difference is Napoli took the chances, they scored a couple of goals early, Juventus had no answer, no plan B. Allegri left out the young players, the likes of Fagioli and Miretti, who helped Juventus go back on track, and decided to go for the experienced players because of the big game, and they deserted him. The choice of putting Chiesa a right wing back, basically to Mark Ravascelia, backfired. In the second half, he put Kostic there, and he was the same. The 3 central defenders looked completely lost against Osimhen. Alexandro, I don't think, is fit to play in a back 3. Obviously, when you play against the likes of Udinese, Cremonese, Lecce, you might get away with it. But now, what is Allegri going to do? Is he going to change completely? Is he going to change the formation? Is he going to mix things up? I think he will, but he hasn't got any more alibi, really. And he needs to decide who are the men that he's going to trust. And I think at the moment in time, he should go with the young players, for example. And then when Pogba returns, we will see. But despite all of it, despite all the criticism, this Juventus side has got 6 more points compared to last season. Last season at this stage, they were 7th, but they only scored 2 goals more. So the problems is always the same. Creating the chances, playing a football that is a little bit negative. And yes, let's not forget, they already crashed out of Champions League. They do risk against Atalanta. Atalanta is a young team. It's a team that is full of pace. It's got players that can take people on. It's not quite got the same quality of Napoli because I don't think they got the same defensive organization. But I can see that Atalanta now, the shackles are a little bit off. The cautious are off. And we are seeing the old style Atalanta. I never believed Atalanta were going to become the master of defending with Gasperini. 12 goals in the last 3. Højlund and Lookman. They look a very good partnership. But one of the best players that got back in the new year is Boga. Boga 2 years ago was one of the players that completed most dribbles, most take-ons in Serie A with Sassuolo. Last season got a little bit lost. Now Atalanta sold Malinowski. It could be Boga's chance. And these 3, especially if he has against a back 3 of Juventus that we saw at Maradona, they could really create damages. No clean sheet in the last 6 for Atalanta, though, and only 1 clean sheet in the last 10. So the old problems still remain. The second best away team in Serie A with 20 points. By the way, they are unbeaten against Juventus in the last 5 in Serie A. But Juventus is not Salernitana. Be careful, because if you go for Atalanta draw, Atalanta win, you could be disappointed. I'm going to go for over 1.25 goals in the second half, 185, because both teams, perhaps they should go for the win. If there's only 1 goal, you lose half your stake.
Tough one. This one, Danny,
Absolutely.
is Juve Atalanta to place your bets, even in the goals market. I was checking the statistics that we have in the Serie A page in Oddspedia, and Juventus is the second team with more games under 2.5 goals, 12 out of 18. The number one is Empoli, and Atalanta. Half of the games ended in under 2.5 goals, despite all the goals that we are seeing lately in Gasperini's men games. So this one is a tough one and very interesting to analyze, as you've been saying, Danny, this new Juventus after the defeat in the Maradona, how this is going to affect the second part of the season for La Vecchia Signora. Still 3 more games on Monday. Bologna, Cremonese. Cremonese, now their hope is in the Coppa, I guess. Another defeat, as we know, in Serie A against Monza. Hopeless, I would say. And Bologna really in form. That's why, Danny, this odds 2.04, this is almost a no-brainer for me, taking these Bologna odds.
I take it, and I take them as well. I'm going to go for a Bologna win. And I think what Cremonese have achieved yesterday by knocking out Napoli is great, but it could also represent a distraction for them because they might go on a cup run, but they need to try avoid relegation. They sacked the manager, Alvini, at the weekend, and they go Ballardini in. An old fox.
Classic.
Ballardini has been everywhere. He's the manager who got the most jobs midway season, probably in the history of Serie A. But he's got a very good record. He achieved salvation 7 out of 10 times. He took a team in the middle of the season. They got 7 points. At this stage last season, Salernitana had 8 points. So they could still be saved, really. But they need to win. And they need to win probably. The way they're going to win, if they're going to get saved, is not by outscoring teams. It's about being tight at the back. Now, they are blessed with one of the best keepers in Serie A, Carnesecchi, who, again, against Napoli midweek made a lot of saves. But can they be tight? Because I don't think they're never going to win games by scoring 1 goal more than the other ones. They need to get the ugly wins. I don't think Bologna is a place where they're going to get an ugly win. To be fair, Bologna is in form. They won 5 out of the last 8. They showed great performance, great team spirit at Udine without Arnautovic, without Barrow. A goal, first goal of the season for Nicola Sansone, who unfortunately is going to miss this one because of injury. They got similar numbers in terms of goals scored and goals conceded to last season, but it feels like they are playing better this time with Thiago Motta. They're 8th in the home table. As I said, it's too good to be true, these odds. Bologna win, and I'm going to take it, 2-4.
And on Monday, we have Inter Empoli. We have the Italian Super Cup. That's why Inter and Milan are playing on Monday and on Tuesday. We saw Inter getting an ugly victory against Verona. But if we check the stats, actually, for Inter, 8 victories in the last 10 Serie A games is not bad at all. And Empoli, another season that probably, Danny, they will stay in Serie A. You mentioned before the key victory against Sampdoria, 1-0. They are unbeaten in the last 4. And for instance, lately they were able to get draws in Udine and in the Olimpico against Lazio.
This is not going to be an easy game for Inter, although it's played on Monday night after the Super Cup. I believe a Super Cup played in Saudi Arabia will leave scars, emotional scars, depending on who wins it, who loses it. Probably a game between Inter and Milan, which is tonight. They might go all the way to extra time. It's similar to Napoli, when they lost to Cremonese in midweek. These big games, they do leave a toll on teams. But at the moment for Inter, the most important thing is to win as many games as possible, to keep in touch with Milan and Juventus, and to try to reaffirm themselves as the real title contender for Napoli. Many believe that Inter, because of the depth, the strength in depth, because of the number of the squad, they could really be the contender of Napoli, but they are 10 points behind. The last few months have not been negative for Inter at all, although I think in terms of the way they play, they took a few step backs, and they also have to rely a lot on 37 years old Dzeko, who's doing really, really well. Lautaro, third game in a row, he scored. So again, Lautaro to score, obviously people ask for props. He's a streaky striker. I think he will pay a decent amount of money. Great home form for Inter, 1 point behind Napoli, second best defense. The issues with Inter is that they score less than last season. They create less big chances, score 10 goals less compared to last season. But they play Empoli, is a side that plays well. They never, I don't think they are very set up for defending, to be fair. They're set up for attacking, for keeping the ball. They can defend. They can't hang on to leads very well. Against Sampdoria, I think they should have lost in a chaotic finale. Against Milan, I remember a few months ago, they were winning, then they conceded 2 goals in the last few minutes. But I think it's an Empoli side that's going to be there rested and going to take the game on to Inter. And I love the Asian handicap plus 175 for Empoli, 186, which means if Inter wins by 2 goals margin, you only lose half your stake. If Inter wins by 1 goal margin, you win. If a draw, you win. So for you to lose the entire stake, Inter needs to win by 3 goals margin, which I don't think is going to happen.
Actually, we saw it against Verona, only a 1-0 victory. Zico is going for an over 2.5 goals. You've seen the head-to-head between these two teams, and we were seeing this over in the previous games. But as I mentioned before, actually, Empoli is the team in Serie A with more under 2.5 goals in the Serie A, 72% of
also
their games.
Because they have one of the best keeper in Serie A, which is Vicario. Next season, Vicario is going to play for a top team. For sure, actually, I heard Bayern Munich were interested in him. It is a top keeper. Without him, they will have 5 or 6 points less for sure.
And the last game in this match day is a very good one. 2 classics, Lazio, Milan, and we have Lazio in the 5th spot. They were able to bounce back and beat Sassuolo because they were through a rough patch in Serie A. And we saw Milan, Dani, suffering as you predicted against Lecce. They were 2-0 down. At the end, they grabbed a point, and they are 9 points away from Napoli. Who knows that if there are going to be more points actually in the gap between these two teams, because perhaps also Milan drop points here. It's a very tough game.
It is. He's plays on Tuesday, so one more day to rest after the fatigue of the Super Cup, which I think is gonna be tough for Milan as well. And they play a very organized side, Lazio. They kept another clean sheet. As Sassuolo, that's the 9th of the season for the keeper Providel. But the bad news for Lazio is they lost Immobile, injured after 5 minutes. And without him, this season, 3 wins, 3 defeats, because they haven't got anyone like him in the team. So I'm probably going to play with a false 9 with Pedro there. Lazio have improved compared to last season. They've improved defensively. They conceded 18 goals less than last season. Last season, they conceded at this stage 33, now only 15. And this is no surprise because Sarri's teams, despite all the talk of Sarri ball, of champagne football and everything, they've always been very organized at the back and defensively. So that's where we see in the blueprint of the Tuscan manager, plus 6 points on last season. There is a lot of pressure for Lazio to try and finish in Champions League, but I think if they will definitely overachieve. This is a team that should do well in the cup competition, should do well in Europe, and should challenge against the top teams, which they've done. Earlier this season they beat Inter at the Olimpico. They beat Roma, so I think they're going to be in for a tough match. For Milan, the question is not only that the new signings haven't left a mark so far, the likes of Origi, the Cateller, they've been very negative, whereas Serginho Dest and Branks, they've been fringe players, but also some of the old guards, some of the players that Milan have built their successes to win the Scudetto, Theo Hernandez, who came back from the World Cup in an awful state of form, Tomori, for example, the same Calabria. They've been missing in a way. They've not been great. Milan is gonna get back Tonali for this one, which is so important. They missed him a lot in Lecce. I think it's gonna be difficult for Milan to get 3 points, although they won there last season. Let's not forget, in a very important game for the Scudetto race. I'm gonna go for a Lazio Asian handicap plus 0.25, which pays 205, which again is a sort of a double chance. If they do draw, Lazio wins. You win half your stake.
It's the decaf double chance, as Alvaro usually says. Very good odds for Lazio. We have Marco telling us draw with under 2.5 goals. That could be an option, Dani. And we've been mentioning the Super Cup. We have Sushant here asking you for a preview, a little bit of a preview for the game we have tonight in the Super Cup. Inter Milan, Dani. Inter, they are slightly favorites, 2.7 to win. Milan 2.93 to win. Something you have to say about this game, Danny? This Derby de la Madonina, but in Saudi Arabia.
None of these teams come in a very great state of form, I must say. For me, this could be a little bit of a dead rubber, especially initially, considering it's a cup. I mean, I think that we're gonna be cautious. I know we saw a lot of goals recently in the last few derbies, but I do like the under 1 goal in the first half. You could go maybe for the under 275 goals overall. Can't see them being a very high scoring game if I'm honest. I don't know what the odds are, but I think you'll get good value at least for the under 1 in the first half. Yeah, under 275 overall.
We can check.
Yeah, I mean we got the Oddspedia.
Exactly, we can check the under 1 goal, for instance, in the first half around 203. So if there is 1 goal, you get your money back. So you expect a cautious game. You mentioned the scars that this game can leave in any of the clubs. We saw it in the Spanish Super Cup, for instance, last week, in Real Madrid losing the El Clásico. And this one, even if it's in Saudi Arabia, is always a derby, is a trophy. And especially the winner, in this case, takes the credit, take the cup, and it's always good to beat your arch-rival, in this case, Milan-Inter, we have in Saudi Arabia. Well, Danny, we've analyzed all 10 games from Saturday till Tuesday, including the Super Cup against Milan-Inter. Which one is your favorite bet for this match day?
The leaders, Napoli, to win at Salerno, the derby of Campania. Napoli win 132.
All right, the derby of the Costa Amalfitana almost, and the ACCA?
Sampdoria Udinese, double chance 1x. Roma to beat Spezia. Bologna against Cremonese, Asian handicap 0. That's obviously the Premier League. Inter, I'm not sure about the Premier League, but Inter Empoli over 2.5 goals, 166. The total odds is 781. I think we should repeat it. Sampdoria Udinese 1x, Roma win, Bologna, Asian handicap 0. Inter Empoli over 2.5 goals, total odds 781.
All right, let's see if we have it in the screen right now. Otherwise, we will write it down in the comments. There you go.
Perfect. It's here. So four selections, 781. Obviously, Bologna Asian handicap 0. If Bologna draws, you need to take out the odds for the Bologna handicap 0, which is 143. So you got a bit less, but I think it could land.
Good luck, Danny. Thanks everyone for watching, following with us the Serie A. Still, of course, leave your comments, your tips, and support us. Just press the like, subscribe. We keep growing, and we want to be more in our channel. Danny, thank you, and see you next week. Bye.
See you soon. Bye-bye.